Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their but they are who we thought they were, and we let them off the hook.
Welcome back to VSP Live. It is Wednesday, July 22nd, 2026, and I'm your host, Michael Benjamin. We're doing things a little bit different today. Obviously, it's not the nighttime to start. We're right in the middle of the day. Everybody's working away, but your boy, Michael Benjamin, had to jump on the ones and twos because the Miles Bridges first media availability took place today, right in the middle of the Diamondbacks game as they are just working the Athletics right now. But if you're here with us live, I appreciate you guys, man, watching on the playback on Valley Sports Plug YouTube or listening on podcast streaming services. You know we love y'all. Make sure you subscribe to the VSP YouTube channel. Leave a like on this video. Click that notification bell and follow us at AZ_VSP on all socials so you can stay up to date with everything going on here at Valley Sports Plug. But ladies and gentlemen, the time has arrived. Like we said, today at 2 p.m., Miles Bridges and general manager Brian Gregory met with the media for the first time since Miles was traded for about 3 weeks ago at this point. And things kind of moved around, right? At first, it was supposed to be yesterday on the 21st. Then it was supposed to be at 3 p.m. Then it got moved to the next day, which is today. Then it got moved up to 2 p.m., conveniently right during the time when the Arizona Diamondbacks were playing the Athletics, and no simulcast could be made of this media availability. No live streams were going on. We had to go the old version route and get all of our information from X. But I want to break down for the people what we saw today and what we heard from Brian Gregory and newly acquired Phoenix Sun Miles Bridges. But I do have to give some thanks first and foremost. Obviously, a lot of this information had to be got from our media outlets here in Arizona. So got to give big thank yous to Dwayne Rankin of AZ Central, Cameron Cox of 12 News, Kellen Olson of Arizona Sports, Shane Young, digital writer for the Suns and Mercury, Hayden Silly of Clutch Sports, and PHNX Suns with the All City Network. But let's start with Miles Bridges, the player, okay? Obviously, first, Gregory kind of addressed how Bridges' unique skill set was needed on this roster, but also how he meshes well with the Suns' system and style of play of what they're trying to do right now. He addressed his athleticism, how his skill level is elite, his offensive ability to shoot, attack the basket, play in the open court, and obviously the physicalness that he plays with for an undersized four. But the thing that he stressed the most important thing was his fit with the culture in terms of what is important, the daily work ethic that allows him to maximize his ability and impact winning. And Gregory shared a funny story where he said he was in Las Vegas at a Backstreet Boys concert, and Miles Bridges had just came into Phoenix trying to look for a new home. And during the night, Bridges texted him and asked if he could use the practice facility to get a workout in. But here is Gregory on why Miles Bridges is the perfect fit for the Phoenix Suns.
We'll have, and it was just a perfect fit for us. Obviously, everything that we're about as a team when it comes to how you feel when you watch us play, the grit, the energy, the toughness that we play with, the competitiveness that we play with. Miles Bridges brings that every single day, every time he walks onto the court. That's exactly who he is. And with that, it's a perfect fit for where we're at right now, but also where we're building to.
Obviously, there are some key buzzwords in that phrasing when he talks about a perfect fit: the grit, the energy, the toughness that the Suns play with, and the competitiveness that they play with. He really wants to key in on how Miles Bridges is bringing that energy every single day when he walks onto the court as well. We know the Michigan State ties were going to be some question marks as well. And obviously, Gregory looked to kind of address those items where he talked about going back to Miles' freshman year. He was a consultant at the time for Michigan State.
Yeah. So during Miles' freshman year, I was at Michigan State as a consultant. So that helped us in the fact that I know who Miles Bridges is as a person. Okay. I know who he is. I know all his mentors from Flint, Michigan, every single one of them. I know his coaches at Huntington Prep. I have a pretty good relationship with his college coach. All right. So with that being said, it was beneficial in our decision process and so forth. At the same time, the basketball piece, with all those things in place, if he wasn't a perfect fit for us basketball wise, and if he couldn't bring the things that we needed, then he wouldn't be sitting here. But when we go through that very extensive research, like we would on any trade that we would ever make, that personal relationship was beneficial. You know what I mean? I've seen him. I was sitting in Coach Izzo's office when at the end of his freshman year, before the NCAA tournament, where Coach Izzo almost fell out of his chair because Miles told him he was coming back for his sophomore year. I almost fell out of my chair too, he was going to be a top 15 pick. And then 2 weeks later, when he made the announcement, everybody was surprised, but I wasn't, because he understood staying one more year was going to help him prepare for his rookie year better and so forth. And so that maturity and all those different things come into play. So it was important. It did not compromise any of the other evaluation pieces that we were using, but it did give us greater insight.
And obviously there's been some other critiques of the trade when, fans or any media outlets talk about the use of the 2033 first round pick in leveraging for this trade for Miles Bridges. So Gregory did take the time to address, what really stood out in having to utilize that draft pick and why it took place.
We feel very comfortable with the overall, all the different aspects of the trade, getting another first round pick back. I remember multiple years ago, the question was, we have no first round picks. With that pick that we acquired, we're now going to have 7 straight years of first round picks. Who would have thought it? And an additional second round pick in that as well. And I think the one thing you have to look at when you're talking about an unprotected versus least favorable among two teams and different things like that, we're always going to be good. So where are our draft picks going to be, especially with the new rules and all those different things? That pick value down the road was not the same as it was a year ago because of the changes in the draft lottery and different things like that. So we felt very comfortable. We thought it was a fair deal, but most importantly, we got Miles Bridges. So that, in my opinion, tipped the scales for us.
And it can't just be all Brian Gregory snippets, folks. I know we got to get into Miles Bridges himself taking the stand and talking about his excitement for the Phoenix Suns and what he hopes to bring to the Valley, as well as different accountability aspects. And we're going to get into all of that. But obviously, Miles has a bunch of ties to the Valley, not only through Brian Gregory, not only through Matt Ishbia, but he did talk on his excitement to play with Devin Booker. You heard it in the snippet just a bit ago, but he dove into a little bit more when it comes down to his relationship with number 15. It's weird to say that, he's always going to be number 1, but Devin Booker.
Get a chance to really watch him like that, but as soon as I got in the league, he kind of embraced me. I played against him. I talked to him after the games. We follow each other on social media, and I've always been a fan of Book. He's always been a great player, probably one of the most underrated players in the league. But I'm excited to play with him, and I feel like if anybody deserves it, I think Book deserves a ring. So I'm ready to go to war with him every day and try to accomplish that goal. Get a chance.
Yeah, I know a lot of people feel the same way, especially here in the Valley, about Devin Booker and their want for him to get that, that actual ring finally, having been up 2-0 in the finals, which seems like so long ago at this point in 2021. But, we are still here talking about Miles Bridges and his relationships that he does have with other guys on the team. We talk about his stint that he had playing in Charlotte with Mark Williams, and he kind of addressed that as well.
Before coming here, trying to find out, what kind of culture, how they do things here, and how much did that help?
Yeah, Mark was one of the first people to text me when he seen the trade happen. He's been very excited. I'm excited to be reunited with him. I was with BG my freshman year of college, so it makes it easier. It's a lot of guys in this organization that I grew up with Team Cleves, and he's here. I was just working out with him earlier, and it was like a full circle moment from me being a kid, working out with my team to now us being in the same organization. So, and it's good having like great teammates and great vets in Book and Dylan. They've been making the process easy as well. I spent a lot of time with all my teammates in Vegas, and I have love for all of them already. So I think it's going to be easy for me to adjust here. And I'm happy to be here.
So we know he has a lot of relationships, obviously, with a lot of people in the building at this point. And there's been some winning ways in the culture of the Phoenix Suns. Obviously, there was some dip downs. You can talk through the Kevin Durant years, the Suns not winning a playoff game in a number of seasons at this point. But overall, I think people are still kind of concerned by the true lack of winning in Bridges' career within the NBA and his time with Charlotte, where it did start to turn last season, obviously, but he still doesn't have a playoff win under his belt. And they asked him, what he learned last season in Charlotte as they did see the growth and what he can possibly bring moving forward with that mentality of, playing high level basketball, throughout a playoff run.
Yeah. Every game, every possession matters. That's what I learned. I still haven't been to the playoffs. I know that's going to change. But just like I said, every possession matters. And that's something that I really learned from us winning, the Hornets winning last year. And that's something that I want to learn here, like learning more how to win and how to tough out games that we're not supposed to win either.
So obviously, folks, we addressed Miles Bridges, the player, his unique talent. We talked about his excitement coming to the Valley, but there is still obviously the elephant in the room with the off-court issues going back to 2022 in regard to situations with the mother of his children, domestic violence disputes. And we knew it was going to be a heavy course of questions in regard to that. So let's just kind of start off with some comments and remarks that Brian Gregory made in regard to the situation. Obviously, it seems to still be ongoing, unfortunately.
Obviously, a lot of other questions. So I wanted to make sure that I acknowledged those questions. and the concerns surrounding Miles and his unacceptable conduct that has occurred in the past. Those questions are part of his story. He's dealt with them before, and we'll deal with them today as well. And I think those questions we are aware of and knew about, and that's also why we took this decision so seriously during the process and when we made it. Miles has taken responsibility for his actions. He's shown remorse for those actions. He's gone through counseling and is continually on a daily basis doing things for his personal growth. He has also made a commitment on a daily basis to become the best man and the best father that he can be. I have no question at all that he understands the responsibility of what our organization's expectations and values are. We will hold him accountable to the same high standards of everybody that is part of the Phoenix Suns organization. There will be no wavering on that. Okay? We also recognize that trust is not given, that it's earned. And Miles understands that for him to earn the trust of his teammates, of our fans, and of our great community, it's going to be based on his daily actions. And are they seeing the growth? And is he doing the things that we know he should be doing? And earning that trust is something very, very important to Miles. He understands that responsibility. He understands our standards and that he'll be held accountable to those standards. One thing I know that he is excited about is being active and being engaged in this community. He understands that's the Suns' way. That's important. The basketball piece, excited about. The growth piece and his engagement in the community, he's equally excited about.
Obviously, there's comments in there about how they took a deep look in regard to this trade, talked about his off-court issues and how it's just unacceptable conduct. And, you know, Bridges did make his own comments as well. You kind of heard it through one of the first snippets, but he talked about how he understands there's mixed feelings with him arriving in the Valley. He took responsibility for those actions. He talked about how he's been to counseling and therapy to be a better person and wants to earn the trust of the fan base. He said, I know I'm a good person and wants to earn the respect of everyone in Phoenix. Might be a tough task to ask for, but, you know, let's hear about some more comments that Miles made in regard to this situation.
That's a great question. No, I've been at rock bottom before, and I've had to work my way back up to where I am now. So just being committed to one thing, you know, being great off the court, being great on the court. Like I said, I've been to therapy sessions, I've been to counseling. They helped me a lot. I can't pinpoint one thing that I've learned. It's a lot of things that I learned about life in general, you know, because when you're playing basketball, you know, you're really not thinking about anything else. And then when off the court stuff happens, then you really get introduced to life. So, you know, I try to live life a different way every day now, and take advantage of every day. And then
I have one more snippet for you guys, and it really is based around the skepticism from the fan base, people like you and me, about this trade overall. Brian Gregory made some kind of final remarks that I wanted to show to the people today, and he talked about how they believe in being held accountable, and they also believe in personal growth.
Yeah, I mean, we as I kind of stated, we as an organization and me personally understand, you know, the concerns and respect the concerns of our fan base. You know, our job was to go through a thorough evaluation and come up with a with the decision. His accountability, the remorse. You listen to him talk today about the growth through the counseling and the therapy and so forth. Those were critical factors in our evaluation as well. You know what I mean? We believe that people have to be held accountable for their actions, but we also believe that, over time there can be personal growth and so forth. And so I think we've seen that.
So, Mr. Gregory, he says he understands and respects the Suns fans who have felt alienated by the Miles Bridges trade. He says that Bridges has now been given the opportunity to be active and engage in the community in order to earn some of that trust back. And I want to kind of finish finally with our snippets and just what we've seen so far that's been coming out from this first media availability. Miles made a kind of final quote that I want to show here for you guys, where he said, "I love improving my game every day with my actions off the court, on the court. I'm thankful for this opportunity, and I think they're going to be proud of me by the end of this." Different kind of stream for you guys today. I felt like it was important. Myself, Mr. Benjamin, I had some PTO time to take this week. It was my birthday week. We thought this stream was going to take place last night, obviously, when it was first announced that this media availability would be on July 21st, but then it was pushed last Friday to today. But then it's in the middle of the day. There's no streams of it really. So we had to really, take and thank those media outlets who were there on site listening to this press conference, which not technically wasn't even really a press conference, I guess. It was considered a media availability, but we started to kind of get more of an eye on why this trade was made, who Miles Bridges is, his accountability factors, taking responsibility, and all of that stuff. And I want to get into it just a little bit, but let's talk about Miles Bridges, the basketball player, really fast. 3 of the past 4 seasons, overall, his statistics have been really good. If you look at it, he averaged over 20 points and 7 rebounds, 3 of those past 4. But this last season, the numbers did fall a tad. He averaged 17.1 points and 5.8 rebounds. One thing that you're always looking at anytime you're trying to acquire assets is their bill of health as well. And he's been decently healthy throughout his entire career. He's played over 65 games in all 7 seasons, including 77 games last year. There's some undeniable factors when it comes down to the athlete that Miles Bridges is. That athleticism is still there. Even though we talked about the metrics on a couple of streams ago saying that his attacking has been tracking down, but it's going to give the Suns more abilities to play above the rim and continue to push the pace. But our biggest question, well, I'll say my biggest question, is how is he going to buy in on the defensive end? As a smaller stature power forward sitting at 6'7", 225 pounds, is he going to be able to control the bigger fours in the league on that side of the floor? We also have his questions on the offensive side, the black hole nature that a lot of people want to pigeonhole him into. The Phoenix Suns seem to kind of have a couple of those guys right now, folks. When you talk about Dylan Brooks given the keys last year with the injuries, Jalen Green seeming to be a one-sided player on the offensive side, and we know Devin Booker has to get his. So how is this fit truly going to work from a basketball perspective when it comes to the Phoenix Suns? I'll go back a little bit to, some of the comments that Gregory made about his skill level. He specifically called out his offensive ability to shoot, but when you lose 2 3-point assets in Grayson Allen and Royce O'Neal, and you put in somebody who is a career 33% 3-point shooter at year 8 Do you expect him to really stretch out and get that much better from that side of the floor? We've seen it from other guys in the league, especially as guys get older. You have to transition your game. But he's still athletic enough and can get to the rim and get above everybody. Is that really going to be part of his game? And obviously, they talked about the fit for the culture and the daily work ethic that allows him to maximize his ability and impact winning. That's been one of the bigger questions, I think, in regards to Miles Bridges as well at this point. A guy who hasn't seen much winning in his career, how is he going to mesh with guys like Dylan Brooks and Devin Booker, who have been consistently in the playoffs over the past couple of seasons and truly have high expectations? I'm very intrigued to see how this is going to fit. And there's those other questions in regard to what are the Phoenix Suns going to do with all of these young assets now when the expectation is to sign Miles Bridges to a long-term contract? I think this is just a foregone conclusion that he will be signed to a 3+ year deal. His relationship with Brian Gregory going back to his freshman year at Michigan State. We know Matt Ishbia loves his Michigan State guys. The extension of Mark Williams, who he's played with as well. The relationship he has with Devin Booker. However you feel about this move at this point, it seems like Miles Bridges is here to stay, folks. So we do have to still ask these questions about how it's going to work overall, because the only way that you should be building teams, even when you're within those aprons and trying to wiggle around and stay out of the second apron so you don't have all these tax penalties and forfeits of draft picks, the only thing you should be doing as a front office is trying to improve your ball club. And this is what the Phoenix Suns think is the right move. Not only bringing back those young guys and those difference makers like Colin Gillespie and Jordan Goodwin, to their eyes as well, Mark Williams, but bringing in a 28-year-old, might be 29 if I'm not mistaken, still has good basketball left in front of them in their eyes, is going to impact winning ways for this team, because the only expectations now as a fan for the Phoenix Suns, after the low floor expectations for this team last year, is for them to continue to push up in the Western Conference rankings and start winning playoff series again. Does Miles Bridges do that? Only time will tell. We've talked a lot about the off-court issues as well on our previous streams. I really encourage you guys to go back and take a look. Chris Patrick, myself, VSP Tallman touched on it just last week. This is going to be a polarizing situation as long as Miles Bridges is on this team, folks. We talked and we know that Brian Gregory and Miles themselves made comments about showing the Valley, showing the people of Arizona how he has changed. And I know a lot of people always want to talk about as well as you have to give second chances. That's just not the world we live in, unfortunately, sometimes. There are the ultimate no come back from situations. And for a lot of people, what Miles Bridges did in regard to the domestic situations with the mother of his child, you cannot repair that kind of personality that you put out anymore. The other thing that a lot of people want to talk about as well, and I've heard some comments and I totally understand them when you talk about a situation and bringing a person like this in, is he is technically an employee, right? This was something that I heard today. Miles Bridges is employed by the Phoenix Suns to play basketball, to make impacts for winning, to take them to the next level. But for a lot of us, and you guys probably know this at the same time, sports can encapsulate the human experience. So it's not just the shut up and dribble mentality. There's a lot of other factors that go into how you root for your team. The culture and the identity of the Phoenix Suns, I believe, has now been put into a little bit of a flux. People are always going to give second chances, but like I said, some aren't. And in this situation, a lot of people are seeing this as a negative, polarizing move for the Phoenix Suns and are questioning what's going on and what's going forward for this team. We're going to have a lot of discussions as we get closer to training camp, as we get closer to the start of the season, and as more media availability comes about, and as we start to see Miles Bridges out in Phoenix making appearances as the team. You know, they do all of those fun stuff, or where, you know, I've seen in his time in Charlotte as well, you know, he would go to the children's hospitals. And if he continues to do the right things like that and tries to show his changed colors, I believe that he'll change the minds of a lot. But there's still a lot of people who will not budge on this situation. This is a very, very interesting move by the Phoenix Suns. And my last comments in regards to this, because I want to make sure that I leave some bites on the apple for my guys and Chris Patrick, VSP Tallman, Nico, Mr. T Jr., Alan, all of our contributors here at Valley Sports Plug. I want to make sure they have a floor to talk about this situation as well. But this story, I don't think, isn't over. And my last comments, like I said, that will be right now, is I don't love that the Phoenix Suns did not make this an official press conference like they did for other re-signings like Mark Williams, Colin, Jordan Goodwin, the introductory press conference for Koa Pete. It just seemed a little weird that this was moved to the middle of the week during a Diamondbacks game when you couldn't put this over the air on 98.7, where you couldn't live stream this to the fans like us who are very interested to hear about why the brass made this move for Miles Bridges. And that's why I'm here today. I did my research. Like I said, once again, I want to give thanks to basically everybody that I got those videos from. I'll make sure to put their X links in the comments below. But one more time, Dwayne Rankin, obviously just an OG in the Valley with AZ Sports. Same with Cameron Cox at 12 News, Kellen Olson, Shane Young, Hayden Silly, and the PHNX Suns crew with All City Sports. I hope I was able to give you guys a sneak peek on some of the comments. I know as the days come through, we're going to hear a lot more. There's going to be a lot more opinions. But it's just me. Until then, I'm Michael Benjamin for Valley Sports Plug. We appreciate you guys for joining us today. Make sure you leave a like on this video. Subscribe to our channel, Valley Sports Plug on YouTube. Follow us at AZ_VSP on all socials. And just so you guys know, if you're new with us, we stream every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time to talk about the Arizona sports news of today. So I hope you guys come back, join us, have a conversation with us, because we appreciate y'all. But until then, we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Things up here, and for one last time, this is Al McCoy saying thanks for being there, thanks for being with us tonight, and from the Footprint Center here in downtown Phoenix, we'll just say so long for now.